Listen to me. Right now, some of you are letting fear stop you from becoming the person you were born to be. You're afraid to take that first step. You're afraid to fail. But let me tell you something. Failure is a part of success. I need you to hear me. Failure is not the opposite of success. It's part of the process. Every champion, every successful person you admire failed first. Michael Jordan, cut from his high school basketball team. Steve Jobs, fired from his own company. Oprah, told she wasn't fit for TV, but they didn't stop. The problem is you're afraid of what people will say. You're afraid to look foolish. You're afraid of making mistakes. But listen, mistakes are lessons. Every time you fall, you learn. Every time you fail, you grow, but only if you get back up. I need you to shift your mindset. I need you to start seeing failure as fuel. The only way you truly fail is if you quit. And you're not a quitter, you're a warrior. You're built for this. So here's what I need you to do. I need you to stop waiting for the perfect moment. I need you to stop doubting yourself. I need you to push past fear and chase your dreams like your life depends on it, because it does. Fear is a liar. And the only way to silence fear is to take action right now, not tomorrow, not next week, now, because the world is waiting for you to step up. The world is waiting for you to be great. So what are you going to do? Stay afraid or step into your greatness? The choice is yours, but remember this, the people who succeed aren't the ones who never fail. They're the ones who never quit. Failure is not the opposite of success. It's part of the process. This is the truth that separates those who achieve greatness from those who give up too soon. Most people see failure as a dead end, as proof that they aren't good enough or that they should stop trying. But the reality is failure is a stepping stone, a lesson, a teacher that guides you towards success. If you look at the most successful people in the world, you'll find that none of them got to where they are without failing, sometimes over and over again. The difference is that they didn't see failure as the end. They saw it as the beginning of something greater. Think about a child learning to walk. When a baby takes their first steps, they stumble, they fall, they might even cry, but they don't stop. They get back up and try again and again and again until one day they're walking without even thinking about it. What if a baby fell once and decided walking isn't for me? It sounds ridiculous, right? But that's exactly what so many adults do when they face failure. They try something, it doesn't work, and they assume they aren't meant to do it. They don't realize that failure is how you learn, it's how you grow. Look at any successful entrepreneur, athlete, or artist, and you will find a long history of failure. Michael Jordan, one of the greatest basketball players of all time, was cut from his high school basketball team. Imagine if he had let that failure define him. Instead, he used it as motivation. He worked harder, trained longer, and became a legend. Thomas Edison, the inventor of the light bulb, failed thousands of times before he finally got it right. When asked about his failure, he said, "I have not failed. I've just found 10,000 ways that won't work." That's the mindset of success. Every failure brings you one step closer to success, but only if you keep going. The problem is that most people fear failure because they think it means something about them. They take it personally. If they fail at something, they assume they aren't smart enough, talented enough, or strong enough. But failure is not a reflection of who you are. It's simply a result. It's feedback. It's telling you what didn't work so you can try something different. Successful people understand this. They don't take failure personally. They analyze it, learn from it, and adjust their approach. Fear of failure is what keeps most people stuck. They don't take risks. They don't chase their dreams. They settle for mediocrity because it feels safe. But safety is an illusion. Avoiding failure doesn't mean you're succeeding. It just means you're not trying. The only way to truly fail is to quit. As long as you keep moving forward, keep learning, and keep growing, you are on the path to success. Most people give up right before they succeed. They face rejection, disappointment, or setbacks, and they assume that means they aren't meant to achieve their goals. But what if they had pushed just a little further? What if they had tried one more time? The truth is, success is often just on the other side of failure. It's those who persist through failure that eventually reach their goals. There's a reason why some of the greatest success stories are also stories of perseverance. Oprah Winfrey was told she wasn't fit for television, Steven Spielberg was rejected from film school multiple times. J.K. Rowling's Harry Potter manuscript was rejected by 12 publishers before one finally gave it a chance. Imagine if any of them had let those failures stop them. The world would have never known their greatness. The key to overcoming the fear of failure is to reframe how you see it. Instead of seeing failure as something to be ashamed of, see it as a necessary part of the journey. Instead of letting failure define you, let it refine you. You know, when you fail, don't ask why me, ask what can I learn from this? When you fall down, don't stay down. Get up, adjust your approach, and try again. There will be times when failure feels overwhelming, when you start to doubt yourself, when you question whether it's worth it to keep going. But in those moments, remind yourself why you started. Remind yourself that every successful person has been in your shoes. The only difference between them and those who never succeed is that they refuse to quit. Failure is not the end of the road, it's just a detour. It's a lesson pointing you in the right direction. If you embrace it, if you learn from it, if you use it as fuel to keep pushing forward, success becomes inevitable. Every successful person has failed, but they didn't stop. This is the truth that separates those who achieve greatness from those who remain stuck in fear. The difference between success and failure isn't talent, intelligence, or luck. It's persistence. It's the refusal to quit when things get hard. The problem is most people see failure as a permanent mark, a sign that they aren't good enough. But the reality is, failure is temporary. It only becomes permanent if you let it stop you. Look at the stories of the most successful individuals, and you'll find one thing in common. They all failed, but they kept going. They faced rejection, they faced obstacles, they faced setbacks, but they refused to let those moments define them. They understood that failure is not the end, it's just part of the journey. When Walt Disney was fired from a newspaper job for lacking imagination, when Albert Einstein's teacher said he wouldn't amount to anything, he didn't stop. When Steven Spielberg was rejected from film school multiple times, he didn't stop. If they had stopped, the world would never have known their names. One of the biggest reasons people let failure defeat them is because they take it personally. They see failure as a reflection of who they are rather than what they did. But failure is never about you. It's about the process. It's about the attempt. It's about the method you use. It's the strategy you took. It's not about your worth as a person. When you start to see failure as feedback instead of an attack on your abilities, everything changes. Instead of giving up, you start analyzing. Instead of feeling defeated, you start adjusting. That's what successful people do. They don't see failure as a dead end, they see it as a detour. The reality is success is built on failure. There is no path to greatness that doesn't include setbacks. Every great business was once an idea that struggled to find investors. Every championship team has seasons where they lost more games than they won. Every best-selling author has a pile of rejection letters. Success doesn't come from avoiding failure. It comes from learning from it. It comes from the ability to get back up, to try again, to keep moving forward no matter how many times you fall. The problem is that most people quit too soon. They try once, it doesn't work, and they assume it never will. They forget that failure is just part of the process. They don't realize that failure is a test of your resilience, your patience, your commitment. The people who succeed aren't the ones who never fail. They're the ones who fail and keep going. They're the ones who see every setback as a setup for a comeback. They're the ones who refuse to let failure break them. One of the best examples of this mindset is Michael Jordan. He is considered one of the greatest basketball players of all time, but he didn't start that way. He was cut from his high school basketball team. Most people would have taken that as a sign to quit, but he did it. He used it as motivation. He worked harder, he trained longer, and he became a legend. He once said, "I missed more than 9,000 shots in my career. I've lost almost 300 games. 26 times I've been trusted to take the game-winning shot and missed. I have failed over and over and over again in my life, and that is why I succeed." That's the mindset of every successful person. They understand that failure is just part of the process. They know that setbacks don't mean stop. They mean learn, adjust, and keep going. They know that the people who make it to the top aren't the ones who had an easy path, but the ones who had the strength to keep climbing. If you let failure stop you, you'll never reach your full potential. If you give up after the first setback, you'll never know how far you could have gone. But if you keep going, if you push through, if you refuse to quit, you will succeed. It won't always be easy. There will be times when it feels impossible. There will be moments when you doubt yourself. But those are the moments that define you. Those are the moments where you have a choice to give in to failure or to rise above it. Every successful person has stood where you are now. Every champion, every entrepreneur, every artist has faced the same doubts, the same struggles, the same failures. The only difference between them and everyone else is that they didn't stop. They didn't let failure be the end of their story. They kept writing. They kept pushing. And because of that, they made it. You can do the same. You just have to keep going. Fear of failure is just an illusion. It's not real unless you believe it. The mind is powerful, and what you feed it becomes your reality. If you tell yourself that failure is the worst thing that can happen, then every step forward will feel like a risk too big to take. But if you shift your mindset, if you start to see failure as just another part of the journey, it loses its power over you. Most people are not held back by their actual abilities. They are held back by the belief that they will fail. They are stuck in a cycle of fear, convinced that making a mistake means they aren't good enough, smart enough, or strong enough. But the truth is, failure is nothing more than a stepping stone, a lesson, a moment, not the end. Fear is something the mind creates. It tells you stories of what might happen if you try and don't succeed. It convinces you that if you fail, people will laugh, opportunities will disappear, and you will be left broken. But the reality is, most of the time, failure is not nearly as bad as we imagine it to be. The worst thing that happens when you fail is that you learn. You discover what doesn't work. You gain experience. You get stronger. But none of that can happen if you let fear stop you from trying in the first place. Think about all the times fear has held you back. Maybe you wanted to start a business, but convinced yourself it would never work. Maybe you wanted to step up for a leadership role, but told yourself you weren't qualified. Maybe you wanted to take a chance on a dream, but let doubt talk you out of it. Fear does not stop failure, it guarantees it. When you refuse to take action because of fear, you fail before you even begin. You rob yourself of the chance to grow, to learn, and to achieve something great. The people who succeed in life are not the ones who never feel fear. They are the ones who move forward despite it. Fear is like a wall standing between you and your dreams. It looks solid, unbreakable, impossible to get past. But when you finally take that first step, when you push forward instead of backing away, you realize that the wall was never real. It was just in your mind. It was only as strong as the power you gave it. The greatest achievements in history came from people who refused to be ruled by fear. The Wright brothers didn't let fear stop them from building the first airplane. Nelson Mandela didn't let fear stop him from fighting for justice. Elon Musk didn't let fear stop him from revolutionizing the auto and space industries. They all had fears. They all had doubts, but they acted anyway. The moment you let go of fear, you become unstoppable. The moment you stop worrying about what might go wrong and focus on what could go right, you start to move towards success. Imagine if Thomas Edison had been afraid of failing. He would have never created the light bulb. Imagine if J.K. Rowling had let rejection keep her from writing. The world would have never known Harry Potter. The difference between those who succeed and those who don't isn't that the successful ones never fail. It's that they don't let the fear of failure stop them from trying. Fear is only real if you let it be. It exists only in the mind. When you face it, it shrinks. When you ignore it, it grows. The key is to act before fear convinces you to stop. The longer you wait, the more power fear gains. It will find a way to keep you where you are, stuck in the same patterns, repeating the same excuses. But the moment you take action, the moment you take even a small step toward your goal, you prove to yourself that fear is just an illusion. You start to see that failure is not the end of the world, that mistakes are just part of learning, and that every setback is a setup for a comeback. Think of all the things you want to do in life. Now ask yourself, how many of them have you avoided because of fear? How many dreams have you let slip away because you're afraid of what might happen? Now imagine what your life would look like if you had no fear of failure. Imagine what you could achieve if you simply took action without worrying about the outcome. That version of you, the fearless version, It's capable of incredible things. But the only way to become that person is to start now, not tomorrow, not next week, now. Because the longer you let fear control you, the more you will regret the chances you didn't take, and regret is far worse than failure. Fear is just a thought, a story you tell yourself about what might go wrong. But success is built on action, on trying, on learning, on pushing forward, even when things don't go as planned. The moment you stop letting fear dictate your choices, the moment you decide to act despite the uncertainty, you take control of your future. And that's when real success begins. Most people never reach their full potential because they spend too much time worrying about what others think. They hold back, afraid of judgment, afraid of criticism, afraid of standing out. They let the opinions of others dictate their choices, keeping them in a box that was never meant to hold them. The fear of failure isn't always about failing itself. It's about failing in front of others. It's about being seen as weak, incompetent, or unworthy. But the truth is, no one who ever achieved greatness did so by seeking approval from others. The people who change the world, who break records, who build empires, are the ones who stop caring about what people think and start focusing on what truly matters, their purpose. Think about how much time and energy is wasted worrying about other people's opinions. Think about how many dreams have been abandoned because someone was too afraid of being laughed at. Imagine how many businesses, inventions, and ideas never came to life because someone was scared of what their friends, family, or society might say. But here's the reality. Most people are too busy with their own lives to care about yours. They may have opinions, they may have things to say, but at the end of the day, they are focused on themselves. The people who criticize you, who doubt you, who tell you that you can't do something, they don't have to live with the regret of you not trying. You do. Success doesn't come from playing it safe. It doesn't come from blending in or avoiding risk. It comes from stepping out, from taking chances, from daring to be different. Every successful person has been criticized. Every person who has achieved something great has been doubted, but they didn't let it stop them. When Jeff Bezos started Amazon, people thought he was crazy. When Oprah Winfrey was fired from her first television job, people told her she wasn't good enough. When Steve Jobs was kicked out of his own company, people thought it was over for him, but they kept going. They didn't let other people's opinions define them, and that's why they made history. The truth is, people will always have something to say. No matter what you do, someone will criticize you. If you try and fail, they'll say, I told you so. If you succeed, they'll say you got lucky. If you take risks, they'll say you're reckless. If you play it safe, they'll say you're not ambitious enough. So why waste time trying to please people who will always have an opinion? Why let their words hold you back from living the life you were meant to live? The people who criticize you are often the ones who are too afraid to take risks themselves. They project their own fears and insecurities onto you because they don't have the courage to chase their own dream. They would rather tear others down than push themselves to do better. But you can't let them win. You can't let their doubts become your doubts. You can't let their fears become your fears. You have to decide that your goals, your dreams, and your purpose are more important than their opinions. One of the biggest regrets people have at the end of their lives is not living for themselves. They regret the chances they didn't take, the risks they avoided, the dreams they never pursued. And often those regrets stem from worrying too much about what other people thought. But when you realize that other people's opinions don't pay your bills, don't build your future, and don't determine your success, you become free. You start making decisions based on what you truly want, not on what will get the least criticism. You start living boldly, unapologetically, with no regrets. Imagine what your life would look like if you stopped caring about what others think. Imagine what you could achieve if you weren't worried about being judged. Imagine how much further you could go if you focus all your energy on your goals instead of on other people's opinions. The most successful people in the world aren't necessarily the smartest or the most talented. They're the ones who have the confidence to take action without waiting for approval. They're the ones who are willing to be misunderstood, to be doubted, to be criticized, because they know their vision is bigger than anyone else's opinion. If you want to succeed, you have to stop asking for permission. You have to stop waiting for validation. You have to stop holding back because of fear. No one is going to hand you success. No one is going to give you a guarantee. You have to be willing to take risks, to fail, to stand back up, and to keep moving forward no matter what anyone says. You have to believe in yourself, even when no one else does. You have to trust that your dreams are worth fighting for, even when others don't see the vision. The only way to truly live is to stop letting fear control you. Fear will always be there. It never completely disappears, but courage isn't the absence of fear. It's taking action despite the fear. It's deciding that your goals, your dreams, your future are more important than your doubts. It's refusing to let fear of failure, fear of judgment, or fear of criticism hold you back. No matter what you do, people will talk. They will have opinions, but at the end of your life, their opinions won't matter. What will matter is whether you have the courage to chase your dreams, to take risks, to live fully and fearlessly. The choice is yours. Will you let fear of failure and fear of judgment keep you stuck? Or will you rise above it and create the life you were meant to live? The reason most people never achieve their dreams is not because they lack talent, intelligence, or opportunity. It's because they give up too soon. They face one setback, one rejection, one moment of failure, and they assume it's over. They convince themselves that they aren't meant for success, that they don't have what it takes, that maybe they should settle for less. But the truth is, failure is not the end. It's a test. It's a lesson. It's a part of the journey that separates those who truly want it from those who only kind of want it. The difference between successful people and unsuccessful people is not that successful people never fail, it's that they refuse to quit when they do. Every great success story is built on a foundation of failures. Michael Jordan was cut from his high school basketball team. Walt Disney was fired from a newspaper job for lacking imagination. Oprah Winfrey was told she wasn't fit for television. Thomas Edison failed over 10,000 times before he successfully invented the light bulb. But none of them let failure define them. They kept pushing forward. They saw failure not as a stop sign, but as a stepping stone. They understood that every failure carried a lesson, and every lesson brought them closer to success. The problem is that most people see failure as a reflection of their worth. They take it personally. They think failing at something means they are failures. But that's not true. Failing at something means you tried. It means you put yourself out there. It means you are in the game while others are too afraid to even step onto the field. Failure is proof that you are moving, that you are growing, that you are taking action towards something bigger. The only true failure is quitting, because the moment you quit, you guarantee that you'll never succeed. Think about a baby learning to walk. They fall hundreds of times, but they don't stop trying. They don't fall once and decide, maybe walking isn't for me. They don't overthink it. They don't listen to doubts. They just keep getting up over and over again until one day they take their first step. That's the mindset you need to have. Stop looking at failure as the end. See it for what it really is. A temporary setback, a lesson, a challenge that is meant to make you stronger. Most people never realize how close they were to success before they quit. They give up just before their breakthrough. They stop trying right when things are about to shift in their favor. They walk away when they only needed to push a little harder, to hold on a little longer. Success is not about being the best, the smartest, or the luckiest. It's about being the one who refuses to quit. The one who keeps getting back up no matter how many times they fall. The one who looks at failure and says, "Is that all you got?" Failure is not the enemy. Fear of failure is. Fear convinces you to quit before you've even started. Fear tells you that trying isn't worth it, that the pain of failure is too much to handle. But what's worse, failing or living your entire life wondering what could have happened if you had just kept going? Regret is the heaviest burden you can carry. It weighs more than failure ever will. At least failure gives you a chance to grow, to learn, to come back stronger. Regret leaves you stuck, forever wondering what might have been. Most people assume that successful individuals have some kind of advantage better resources, better connections, better timing. But the biggest advantage anyone can have is the mindset that quitting is not an option. It's the ability to stand up after every failure and keep moving forward. When you develop that mindset, you become unstoppable. You stop seeing obstacles as roadblocks and start seeing them as tests. You stop letting failure break you and start using it to build you. You stop questioning whether you can succeed and start believing that success is inevitable if you just keep going. Life will test you. It will challenge you. It will throw obstacles in your path that make you question everything. But when you refuse to quit, when you commit to your goals, no matter what, the universe has no choice but to move out of your way. The people who win are the ones who outlast everyone else. The ones who keep showing up, keep putting in the work, keep fighting for what they want. The ones who understand that failure is just part of the game and quitting is the only way to lose. So the next time you fail, remind yourself that this is not the end. This is just another step forward. Learn from it. Adjust your strategy. Try again. Keep showing up. Keep fighting. Keep believing. Because the only difference between those who make it and those who don't is the willingness to keep going when it gets tough. The road to success is not easy, but it's worth it. And as long as you refuse to quit, you will get there. There will never be a perfect time to start. Too many people sit around waiting for the right moment, the right opportunity, the right circumstances, telling themselves that one day when everything lines up perfectly, they will finally take action. But that day never comes. Life will always be unpredictable. There will always be challenges, obstacles, and excuses. The people who succeed are not the ones who wait for the perfect time, but the ones who start despite the uncertainty. They understand that perfection is an illusion, and waiting for it only leads to wasted time and missed opportunities. Think about how many times you have put something off, telling yourself that you would start when you were more prepared, when you had more money, when you had more support. And then weeks pass, months pass, years pass, and you are still in the same place, still making the same excuses. The truth is, if you keep waiting for everything to be just right, you will be waiting forever. There will always be reasons to delay, always be something that feels like it's missing. But action creates progress, not waiting. The sooner you take that first step, the sooner you start building momentum, and the sooner you start seeing results. No one who has achieved anything great had all the answers when they started. They didn't have everything figured out. They weren't completely ready, but they started anyway. When Elon Musk launched Tesla, he didn't know exactly how he would change the auto industry, but he took the risk and figured it out along the way. When Jeff Bezos started Amazon, it was just an online bookstore. He didn't have the grand vision of a multi-billion-dollar empire at the time. He just started. Waiting for the perfect time is just another form of fear, another way the mind tries to protect you from risk. But avoiding risk also means avoiding success. The reality is that the best way to learn is by doing. You will never feel 100% ready, and that's okay. Growth comes from action. Confidence comes from experience. The more you wait, the more fear builds up and the harder it becomes to take that first step. But once you push past the initial fear, you realize that the hardest part was just beginning. You learn as you go, you adapt, you improve. Success is not about having all the answers up front. It's about having the courage to take action even when you don't know everything. Think about all the successful people in the world. They are not the ones who sat around waiting for the stars to align. They are the ones who took imperfect action, made mistakes, learned from them, and kept moving forward. Every entrepreneur, athlete, artist, and leader who has made an impact in the world had to take that leap of faith before they were ready. They had to step into the unknown, take risks, and trust that they would figure things out along the way. That is the mindset you need to have if you want to achieve your goals. Fear of failure is one of the biggest reasons people wait for the perfect time. They tell themselves that if they wait, they can minimize the risk of making mistakes. But mistakes are part of the process. There is no success without failure. The only real failure is never trying at all. Every successful person has failed multiple times before getting it right. But they didn't let that stop them. They didn't wait for the perfect moment to ensure success. They took action despite the uncertainty, despite the fear. And that's why they succeeded. The best time to start is now. Not tomorrow, not next week, not when you feel ready, now. Every day you wait is another day wasted. Every day you delay is another opportunity lost. The sooner you start, the sooner you will get to where you want to be. If you start today, in a year, you will be miles ahead. If you keep waiting, in a year, you will still be in the same place, making the same excuses. Action is the cure for fear. The more you do, the more confident you become. The more steps you take, the clearer the path becomes. You don't have to have all the answers right away. You don't have to know exactly how everything will unfold. You just have to start. You have to trust yourself, trust the process, and take that first step. That is what separates those who succeed from those who only dream. Your goals, your dreams, your ambitions, they are all waiting on you. No one is going to hand them to you. No one is going to give you permission. You have to decide that you are done waiting, done making excuses, done letting fear control you. The perfect time does not exist. The only time you have is now. The question is, what are you going to do with it? Failure is never the end unless you decide to quit. Too many people treat failure as a final destination, as proof that they aren't good enough, smart enough, or capable enough to succeed. They hit a roadblock, face rejection, or experience a setback, and instead of pushing forward, they give up. But failure is not the opposite of success. It is part of success. Every great achievement in history has been built on a foundation of failures, mistakes, and lessons learned. The people who make it in life are not the ones who never fail, but the ones who refuse to let failure define them. Think about Thomas Edison. He failed over 1,000 times before inventing the light bulb. Imagine if he had given up after the first few tries, if he had let failure convince him that he wasn't capable. But instead of seeing each failure as the end, he saw it as a lesson, as a step closer to success. When asked about his failures, he didn't see them as defeats. He said he had simply found 1,000 ways that didn't work. That's the mindset of a winner, someone who understands that failure is just another step in the process. Most people don't fail because they lack talent or ability. They fail because they give up too soon. They hit a rough patch, face criticism, or struggle with doubt. And they convince themselves that it's not worth continuing. But the people who achieve great things are the ones who keep going, even when it's hard, even when they don't see immediate results. They understand that failure is temporary, that it's a test to see who is truly committed. If you quit every time things get tough, you'll never know what you could have accomplished. One of the biggest reasons people fear failure is because they tie their self-worth to their success. They believe that if they fail, it means they are a failure. But that's not true. Failing at something does not mean you are a failure. It means you are learning, growing, and improving. The only people who never fail are the ones who never try. They stay in their comfort zones, avoiding risks, playing it safe. But by doing that, they also avoid success. The only way to grow is to step outside of your comfort zone, to take risks, to embrace the possibility of failure, because that is where true progress happens. Every failure contains a lesson. The most successful people are the ones who look at their failures and ask, what can I learn from this? Instead of seeing failure as a reason to stop, they see it as a teacher. They analyze what went wrong, adjust their approach, and come back stronger. Michael Jordan, one of the greatest basketball players of all time, was cut from his high school basketball team. He could have let that define him, could have given up on his dream, but instead he used it as fuel, worked harder, and became a legend. The difference between winners and losers is not the absence of failure, but the ability to turn failure into motivation. People who let failure stop them are the ones who never truly wanted it. If you really want something, you will keep going no matter how many times you fall. You will refuse to let setbacks break you. You will use every mistake as a lesson, every rejection as fuel, every failure as proof that you are one step closer to success. The road to greatness is paved with obstacles, but those obstacles are not there to stop you. They are there to make you stronger, to test how bad you really want it. The truth is, success is not about avoiding failure. It's about overcoming it. It's about refusing to stay down when you fall. It's about having the resilience to keep moving forward no matter how many times you stumble. The only real failure in life is giving up. As long as you keep going, as long as you keep learning, as long as you refuse to quit, you are never truly failing. You are simply finding your way to success. Failure is only permanent if you decide to stop. Every great success story is filled with moments of doubt, setbacks, and hardships. But the difference between those who succeed and those who don't is persistence. The most successful people in the world are not the ones who had an easy path. They are the ones who kept going even when everything seemed against them. They understood that failure was never meant to break them, but to build them. When you fail, you have two choices. Let it define you or let it refine you. Too many people allow failure to dictate their worth, convincing themselves that they aren't good enough, smart enough, or talented enough. But the truth is, failure is proof that you are trying, that you are pushing your limits, that you are stepping outside of your comfort zone. The only people who never fail are the ones who never take risks. And those are the people who never grow, never improve, and never reach their full potential. Success is not about perfection, it's about progress. Every failure teaches you something. Every mistake gives you an opportunity to learn. Every setback prepares you for a greater comeback. If you quit after failing, you will never know how close you were to success. But if you keep going, if you take every failure as a lesson, if you refuse to stay down, you will eventually get to where you want to be. The road may not be easy, but it is worth it. No matter how many times you fail, as long as you keep moving forward, you are never truly defeated. The only real failure is giving up. Keep going, keep learning, and keep fighting, because your success is waiting on the other side of your persistence.